Hey, all you cool cats and gamers. Welcome to Victory Lap, the GDQ Hotfix Show that highlights recent world record and personal best runs and the runners who made them happen. I'm your host, Nuclear, and tonight I've got with me Regal with his new world record run of Dark Souls Any Percent. Before we get into that, though, just a couple announcements. SGDQ 2023 is coming up May 28th to June 4th in Minneapolis, Minnesota. Off-site volunteer submissions open tomorrow, March 10th to March 22nd. Go to GamesDoneQuick.com for more information. Also, GamesDoneQuick is returning to PAX East 2023 on March 23rd to 26th. Be sure to check out the speedrun stage if you're interested in watching some speedruns or playing through the gauntlet. And just a reminder that your subs, Prime Gaming subs, gift subs, and bits cheered on the GDQ Twitch channel help support GamesDoneQuick Hotfix. Please consider subscribing if you enjoy the daily speedrunning content. And with that, I'm going to pass things over to Regal and QQ and get us into the run. Take it away.
Thank you, Nuke. Hi, I'm Regal, and this is going to be a Victory Lap showcase of a recent world record run I achieved for the Dark Souls category, any percent, no wrong warp. And joining me is my friend and the former record holder, QQ. Say hi, QQ.
Hello.
So before we get into it, I want to give some background info on the category. Any percent, no wrong warp is as it sounds. It's an any percent run, but you aren't allowed to wrong warp to skip to the end of the game. So you're allowed to do all other types of skips and glitches, but you can't wrong warp. In the past, no wrong warp was simply called any percent. There are multiple methods of wrong warping, but there's multiple methods. One of them is using the Alt F4 to force close the game in a load screen. There's a few other methods. The first major one that was without Alt F4 was using Purple Coward's Crystal, which you obtained from. No, go ahead.
And then after that was Homeward Wrong Warp, which was discovered in 2020, right before I started running. But overall, the any percent route has just evolved so much in so many different ways over the past couple of years. And that's honestly one of the best parts about Dark Souls 1 speedrunning. It's just always changing, and old stuff is always getting added, and new things are getting discovered pretty much every week at this point.
Yeah, but, it's constantly evolving. So it used to be that there was any percent force quit, and there was any percent. And that was what this run we're about to watch previously was. But then a method of doing it without force quit, the Purple Coward's Crystal, that was found in 2017. And so there was a category split. So there was any percent force quit using the Alt F4 wrong warp. There's any percent which used the Purple Coward's Crystal, now Homeward wrong warp. And then there was any percent no wrong warp, which we're going to be covering today. So although this is a more traditional method of progressing through the game, where we're going to be going and killing all the major Lord Soul bosses. There's 4 of them. We're going to be killing each one of them to offer their souls to the Lord Vessel to progress to the final area. So even though that's a more traditional method, you're actually going to end up seeing a lot more tech just because there's more content to get through. So to just give a brief overview of the route we're going to be taking. So first we're going to be trying to get our main weapon, which we're going to farm a Black Knight weapon from one of the Black Knights in the game. It's called the Black Knight Halberd. You may have heard of it. So there's a 26% drop rate on this. If you don't get it, you have to reset unless you're using a program called Gadget Lamage, which we use for practice. You'll notice through the run, I actually end up PBing with red splits because I'm running against a fake run using Gadget Lamage. But I actually got a real halberd in this run, and that's what I ended up actually getting a PB with. So a real PB, not a fake one with a spawned-in weapon. We're going to be getting some other items that we need, some equipment required to get to the game fast, and then we're going to beeline to Anor Londo using a skip called Sinsgate Skip, which you might know. It's very ubiquitous. A lot of people know it. And then we're going to go be killing Ornstein and Smo to acquire the Lord Vessel so we can warp around to the different areas of the game more quickly. And once we get the Lord Vessel, most of the rest of the run is just going to be killing all these Lord Soul bosses, getting all 4 of them. And there's a structure to them. You want to do one before the other for different reasons. But that's going to be the main goal for most of the run after ONS is kill the Lord Soul bosses, then offer them to the Lord Vessel, and then get to the end of the game. A few more details we can talk about is, like I said, you have to actually get the Black Knight weapon to drop. You can't use a program to cheat it in. That's part of the rule set. Another thing is we use in-game time for this game. So you're going to see me quitting out on doors. The timer's going to pause. That actually is slower RTA, but it's going to end up saving in-game time. So you'll see some things like that. Other than that, I think we're ready to go, and we could start off. I want to just go ahead and progress through the video a bit. And let's talk about the character creation. So you'll see me filling this out. So male versus female, not a big deal, but it actually is technically faster to run as male. There's a few memes with animations in the game to where like the female animations while one-handed, some of the glitches just literally don't work. Why it's like this? Well, it's actually really complicated to explain, but there's just these minor differences in how the characters were made. The one-handed moveset of female, you literally just can't do glitches, and that's annoying. But also, there's differences in the acceleration of the 2 different sexes that you can pick. So females actually accelerate faster, but they decelerate faster as well. And using a tech called toggles, this is what we colloquially call it, you can actually bypass that acceleration required as a male and get the same boost in speed to top speed that female does, but without the deceleration issue. So male actually just ends up being faster by like barely any time, but it's just a small optimization. You can choose either one. It's not really a big deal. I'd say what's more annoying is the fact that you have to two-hand to do some of the glitches. And then we choose Thief. Thief, the main important thing about Thief is you start with a free Master Key. So you could take Master Key as a gift. You see I have Black Firebombs selected here. You could take the Master Key as a gift, but Thief gets one for free, so we can just take Black Firebombs and not have to worry about it. So it's like we essentially start with 2 gifts, and the Black Firebombs will save us like, 20 seconds throughout the whole run, maybe a little more than that. The rest of it doesn't really matter. You can kind of pick whatever you want, and then you hit confirm and the timer starts. And then we're going to immediately start into Asylum. So this part of the run this segment is just a tutorial zone. It's got an easy boss in it, especially with the Black Firebomb setup. We're just going to be chucking these firebombs at him. And this is a pretty easy segment, but it's actually really optimized, and there's a lot of history to this segment. A lot of people put a lot of importance on how fast you can get through it. It's kind of a bragging right to get a good Asylum, and I would say that QQ and I are both really good at this segment.
Yeah, you are by far the best, at least in Prepare to Die edition. I don't know how Tama stacks up in the remastered stuff compared to you, but like by far you are the most proficient at Asylum in this game.
And so that brings it to the point. This is Prepare to Die edition. It's not the remaster, and there are differences between the two. Certainly, one of them is like the in-game timer runs different. The glitches are different. So it's kind of it's like a little hard to compare them. But yeah, I haven't done enough remaster runs to really say. But yeah, this is a not a super complicated segment. But it's a really interesting like microcosm of the whole run, where a lot of small little strats and optimizations come into play, and it really tests your ability to just get through running sections of the game efficiently. So you might save a few frames here and there on small things, and I can actually point out one of the first things that I'll do, which is a minor optimization in movement. At this first point where I regen stamina here, I'm going to do a toggle right there. And that is what I was talking about with the differences between male and female. Whenever you start to sprint in this game, as soon as you begin to sprint, if you input a toggle or a block, you'll actually skip that acceleration phase and get to top speed faster.
What do you mean if he does like a second?
And you'll see me doing that through all the running sections of the game.
I don't know.
And so in every single route, there's like different ways that you progress the asylum. This is like the most basic one that you can really do. It's just black fire bombs. There's not even an item pick up here. Here's the black fire bomb killing asylum demon. Pretty straightforward and not super hard to do either. You see me like blocking through those fire bombs. That's a new thing we started doing. It allows you to just take a few little steps while you're throwing the bombs. It's another small optimization. When you don't pick up any items, this hollow just blocks you almost every time, so you have to knock him out of the way. But it is faster to just not pick up any items if you don't need it. I will say, though, that the item that you get there... Here, I'll pause it before we cover it anymore. The item that you get there, you can get a shield, which is helpful, but it's really not necessary. And if you have too much stuff in your inventory, it really can mess up your menuing throughout the run, especially just specifically this route. You have a lot of stuff at the beginning, and there's a lot of additional menu you're going to be needing to do. And if you have just like one extra thing, it throws off everything. So you're kind of like tasked with this choice of, do I want to pick up the target shield to make like some things more comfier, or do I want to pick up the hilt or keep the hilt and not drop it on the elevator that will be coming up to make a few other something else easier? So there's a little bit of a choice there, but it ultimately is faster to skip the target shield. So that's what I've been doing. And I like the thing that the hilt helps you with later on in the run, but it does make your menuing more difficult, I would say, to keep the hilt and not get the target shield.
Yeah, the way that the Dark Souls item menuing works is just like very complicated and not intuitive whatsoever. So having the target shield does make the menuing a lot easier, but like if you get proficient enough at it, like Regal is, it's just a sacrifice that you make in order to save a little bit of time.
A little bit of time, and I actually the thing that the hilt makes easier on Blighttown Skip, which is much later. I actually much prefer that over the small little
the stock one.
Yeah, and like the advantages of getting the shield are so minor compared to that, in my opinion. Yep. So here's another cool strat right here. If you quit out next to this wall, so normally you would go up to aggro a boulder to come down and break the wall, but if you just quit out right next to it, your stand-up animation just breaks it. Because like your stand-up animation has some insane like value that just breaks objects. That saves about a second and a half of in-game time. It's totally slower real time, but it saves in-game time, so we do it. And I didn't see, what was it, the 119.7 put out there?
Yeah, it was 119.7 something, yeah.
Which is like, it's okay. The best one I've had is the 119.06, which is absurd. And
yeah, but you got blocked by the hollow, so you had to hit him.
I didn't get the good hollow RNG on this one. So 143.6 is still pretty good. The best time that for this type of asylum is like a 142.9.
But I'm really trying
which I got like a few weeks ago, which was nuts.
Yeah, that was crazy.
So here's another cool strat. So I'll point out this door quit out that we did here. That's just to save a little bit of in-game time. It's slower RTA, but it saves some in-game time.
Perfect.
Here's a cool strat. So normally, when you're doing this transition into Firelink Shrine here, this cutscene will come up, and then you'll get a message that's like, you can kindle bonfires in Lordran and level up. And that prevents you from sprinting. But if you open your key settings menu, it just skips that, and you can immediately start sprinting. So that's like a very small but cool optimization. We're going to be doing that later on as well. I want to go ahead and point out, though, we are going to the Valley of the Drakes here, and in a lot of routes, the first thing you do after leaving the asylum is you go to Undead Burg. So like historically, I'd say it was pretty common that you would go to Valley of Drakes right off the bat after asylum. And then as the game started to develop, there's a lot more routes that would not go to Valley of the Drakes. And there's a few reasons to go to Valley of the Drakes. It makes sense. But as the game became more mature, a lot of people found more reasons to go to Undead Burg. And a lot of people incorrectly think that Valley of Drakes is like this way to bypass Undead Burg, where you would fight Taurus Demon, and then you'd go past the Hellkite on the bridge, and then you get to Undead Parish. But it's actually about a minute faster to just go through Undead Burg. However, there's some really important items in Valley of the Drakes that this run specifically does need. So we're going to be doing this specific pathing through the game. There is a different way that you can progress through this category using a different weapon, not the Black Knight Halberd, but the Black Knight Greatsword. And that route's maybe like just a little bit slower, way more annoying, which is why nobody runs it. But it's just a little bit slower, but you literally go the exact opposite direction. And that's one of the coolest things about this game is just like you can do the exact same category, the exact same goals using a totally different way of progressing through and be almost the same speed anyways. So I always find that fascinating about this game. So the main reason we're going to be going to the Valley of the Drakes, yeah. So that I attempted to do a strat there, the frame dupe. It's not super relevant. I didn't get it. So the main reason you want to go to Valley is for first of all, that's how you get the Black Knight Halberd, the quickest way there. And there's a ring called Red Tearstone Ring.
I started exercising.
And on the way, we want to pick up a thrusting weapon, the S-Stock. It's right there. So we grab that. That's going to be used for a glitch called Moose Swap much later. And then we're going to pick up some of these soul items on the way. There's a 1k soul there. And then there's a 2k soul coming up here. Here's a really cool strat. You just jump over this valley. That jump's a lot easier to die on than it may seem. So if you're watching a Dark Souls speedrunner running this category and they die on that jump, don't make fun of them too much because it's really easy to die there. And it's embarrassing, but trust me, it can happen.
I see a lot of hitless runners like really pop off whenever they make it, and it's really wholesome.
Yeah, so that was that 2k soul. Like that undead dragon will aggro if you get too close to him, but you can just pick up that soul and he doesn't do anything. This is a really like boring segment of the run, and you have to run through it over and over again to farm the Black Knight. But you kind of just get used to it.
Really simple and quick.
There is a little bit of danger though with these drakes here. There is something you could do to save a little bit of time here that I don't do in this run because it's very annoying. It's Drake suicide quit out. If you wanted, you could quit out right here, and when you reload in the game, that Drake will often fly off and just die and give you 1,000 souls, which allows you to skip the 1k soul pickup earlier on. And that ends up saving about a second, but it's inconsistent. So like for the sake of consistency, I don't do that. And so you do a little menuing on this ladder. Here's one of the good things about ladders and doors in this game. You can just move, and on the downtime of you going through the animation, you can just menu all day. And the game doesn't pause with the start menu up, so that's actually nice. You can still progress through the game and keep moving forward, but adjust your inventory or do any necessary things while you're going through these animations.
And the order of which he placed the items in his hotbar and equipping and unequipping the S-Stock is actually fairly important because specifically the soul that he's hovering over right now is...
Here, I'll rewind it. You can see like all the stuff I do. This is a good point. Go ahead.
So essentially what this allows us to do, if we place these items in a specific order, Dark Souls 1 actually has a thing called item indexing, which it essentially stores the last item slot that you had hovered. So if we use this 1k soul, which Regal has highlighted, if we use that and then later on after we kill Iron Golem, because we already had that soul right there, if we just go in our inventory to equip the next item, it automatically lets us equip the soul of an Iron Golem. So it just speeds up the menuing a lot.
Yeah, and there's these small tricks you can do to just make your menuing like a little bit faster. Like it doesn't save a lot of time, but it's just something you can do for free on this ladder, and you don't lose any time setting this up. And it'll save you like a few frames on equipping the Iron Golem soul later on. And I actually do another indexing thing that literally only saves like 3 frames. Like I equipped this S-Stock right here on the second slot. Like just so when I equip the bow later, I have to do one less D-pad down input. But it saves time and it's free, so you might as well do it. So this is one of the biggest workhorses of this entire run, and it used to be just ubiquitous in a lot of runs from this game. Like you just see it everywhere, and you still do see it pretty often. It's the Red Tearstone Ring. This ring is busted. It boosts your damage so much. Like it's supposed to boost your damage by 50%, but with the way that damage calculations are actually done in this game, it ends up basically doing by 100%. But it's only active when you're under 20% HP. So throughout the whole run, you're gonna see me intentionally taking damage in order to get myself at a really low HP value and then dramatically increase my damage output. So I'll be like one hit away from death almost every single boss fight. But which seems scary and it seems cool when you see it, but when you actually practice the game and run it a lot, it's so much better to be able to have this massive damage output because the bosses just die. They die so fast that they have so much less time to give you nonsense that loses you time that it actually ends up making the fights easier if you're well practiced with them. If you're still new and you're not really sure of all the different ways the boss can act, you can just die. But with a good bit of practice and knowledge, I would say the run is just easier at RTSR range. It's Red Tier Stirring. RTSR is what we call it for shorthand. And so that ladder roll off of it, by the way, easy place to die because those drakes are everywhere and they're very annoying. So
also, going up that ladder, you can actually sometimes get clipped by lightning that rides up the wall.
Yeah.
So the whole segment is just kind of annoying, but also boring at the same time.
Yeah, it's similar to Anor Londo. It's like very boring, not a lot going on. You're just running, but at the same time, it's like also terrifying. At least this part's earlier in the run, and it's before you even get a weapon. So it's whatever. It's just kind of like you have to run through it a lot. So now we're coming up to a strat that was implemented, I don't know, maybe 5 years ago. You used to just ride this elevator up here up to
so many different
New Londo and try to frame dupe these souls, which a frame dupe is like a really precise dupe that isn't really relevant here.
That would
But
be the case.
you would ride the elevator and try to frame dupe them. But now it's actually we just started doing this up warp. It's like 8 seconds faster. You just quit out as you pop that soul, and then you reload, and then you walk into the shaft and quit out again and reload, and you're just at the top. You skip the whole ride, and that saves about like 8 seconds in game time. It's nice little easy way to save time. And then that basically covers all of the valley segment. We're gonna go straight into the hardest segment of the run, I would say.
By far the
is
hardest.
Thin
Easiest
Skate
most time by
Skip.
far.
Yeah, like so if you're running this game or this category, and you see this segment and you don't really like fully understand how difficult it is to do this quickly. When you start running and you're like, oh, I just lost 50 seconds versus this other runner. I don't even know how I lost 50 seconds, but I did because it's actually just like very sneakily, extremely difficult to get fast segments here. And it starts off. You grab the Grass Crest shield. You're going to be using this shield throughout the whole run for stamina regen. You could skip it because the stamina regen doesn't really save you that much time, but it actually is quite crucial for the setup to kill this Black Knight, is quitting out on the Grass Crest shield pickup. Because we're going to be influencing this Black Knight, the enemy we just ran past, to hopefully die in a consistent manner and potentially a very fast manner. So before, historically, we would just try to dance with this guy. But we would go through this flow chart of different ways to react to the RNG that this guy would get, and you're just trying to get him to fall off as quickly as possible, depending on what he does. But this quit out strat that they started doing in the remaster first. Shout out to remaster runners, no joke. It's a little different in Prepare to Die edition, which is why it wasn't adapted at first, because the enemies just behave differently. But with a little bit of slight modification to the pathing, we got it to work for Prepare to Die edition. But this just dramatically reduces the RNG that you're going to get from this guy, and it makes it way more likely that he just jumps to his death, and that's fast. So you could actually get a more optimal kill by just not quitting out and hoping you get lucky that he jumps off, but it's so much less likely that it happens. So this quit out strat just reduces a lot of RNG while also giving you a much higher chance that you'll just get the fastest possible thing. And I think he does suicide in this run.
I mean, if he doesn't, then I don't know how you would have gotten that fast.
So fair warning, this early game is nuts. I had the early game I had for this run is incredible. It's like tied for the fastest early game ever if you go by
crazy.
ONS time. It's like it's not the best SGS time. It's not the best Asylum time or the best GCS pickup for those segments. But the ONS time, which is a big indicator of how fast your early game is, it's like tied for the fastest ever. So this is a very good early game. I think so. That's that little pathing. You go to the side, and then there he goes, and he's gone. And then, of course, boom, halberd. So the run is unlocked, and we are off to the races here. So this part of the segment is pretty straightforward. You're just kind of running through the basin. We need to get a bow for the moose swap glitch. We already have S-Stock, which is part of the moose swap glitch. We also need a bow. There's a longbow right here, which is very handy. So we're going to grab this with some arrows and continue on our way to Andre, which is where we're going to be doing some really intense and complicated menuing. And that is really the bulk of the difficulty of the segment. Here's a really cool lizard kill. So you need,
he bounces back into you.
You need Twinkling Titanite because the Black Knight Halberd upgrades with Twinkling Titanite. And you just need one. So you just have to. This lizard's just on the way, and you need to kill him. But he has one more HP than what a black firebomb deals. So you have to punch him and then throw the black firebomb, and that kills him. Which is just. I always think that's hilarious.
Oh, you got the AFK on him. Nice.
And this is some like menuing while sprinting, which is kind of hard to do. So like in the later games for Dark Souls, there's a lot of ways where you can continue to sprint while you're menuing. You can't do that in this game. So you have to really practice being able to hold the analog stick forward and press pause and menu on stamina regen, which depending on which controller type you're using can be more difficult than others. There's two examples of it right there. So here's this guy can actually injure runs too. It happens like not super often, but it does happen.
It happened to me for the first time in months earlier.
Oh yeah, it's so bad when you die with the halberd. Okay, so where to start here? this is so difficult to do quickly. But what? So I guess
your mouse isn't even on the screen, so you have to.
That's true. So yes, I will explain that as well. Basically, what we're going to be doing here, to give a simple description, is we're going to be buying a weaponsmith box. We need that to upgrade the Black Knight Halberd a little later on, because we don't have really the souls to do the upgrade for it now. We don't want to have to come back to a blacksmith, so we need the weaponsmith box from Andre right here. And this is part of why we got some souls throughout Valley of Drakes, is specifically for this part of the run. We have 4,901 right now if you look at the soul counter in the bottom. So we're going to buy a smith box. Then we're going to buy a war pick, which we can't use the Black Knight Halberd yet because we don't have the stats for it. So and if you look on the segment, the splits, Iron Golem's next. We need something to kill Iron Golem with. The war pick just ends up being like the best option because it's cheap. We can use it without having to level up, and there's just a really good strat to kill Iron Golem with using the war pick. So it's actually just like a really good option. Then we're going to prompt swap, which is a whole other glitch that I will explain in a second. We're going to prompt swap 9 Kestises or Cestus or Cestus, however you want to pronounce it. We're going to prompt swap 9 of those stacked into a single item. It's like a glitched Kestis for reasons, and that will put us at a certain soul count under 800 souls specifically, so we can then prompt swap again in the other direction, which that will make sense in a second, to buy 99 Titanite shards, even though you don't even have the souls to buy one of them. So just to explain what prompt swap is, that's like really the necessary thing here. Prompt swap is basically opening up a prompt to purchase an item in the context of a different menu, which it normally wouldn't be. So and this allows you to basically just buy stuff that you don't normally have the souls for. So you might have like just enough to buy this one item that you have highlighted, right? And in the adjacent menu, there's an item that you don't have the souls to buy for. And what you have to do is you have to place your, here, I'll forward a little bit, but let's just get through this part where I buy the Smith box. The Smith box, war pick, and now we're about to prompt swap. So right now I have my mouse cursor right here, where I'm drawing right here. You can't see it because I don't have a cursor capture turned on because people don't like it being on the screen. What I'm going to do is I'm going to input a mouse click to where it changes this category that I'm looking at for Andre, and at the exact same time, I'm going to press A. So the game is going to think I'm pulling up the prompt to buy wood bolts, but I'm going to change the menu category at the same time I do that, and I'll go forward, and you'll see now I am buying multiples of, you can see right here, of what looks like the war pick, but because of how this game works, it's actually the Kestis, like, because of how the scroll bar is. It looks like the war pick, but it's actually the Kestis. It's weird. So normally you can't buy quantity values of the weapons. You can only buy one at a time. But because of this prompt swap glitch, we're going to be buying a stacked quantity. So it will be one Kestis, but it'll be like 9 in one. It'll actually be like the weight of 9 Kestises in a single one.
Insanely heavy.
Yeah, and that's not useful on its own, but it will be useful for a thing we're going to do in just a second. So we're going to buy 9 Kestises. There it is. And then I'm going to move my cursor. You'll see my camera changing in the background if you pay attention. I'm going to move my cursor to this category over here, and then move my prompt to standard arrows instead of the bolts at the bottom. And then I'm going to do the same prompt swap glitch in the other direction, and it's going to allow me to D-pad down. Oh, that was so fast. My menuing's too fast for me to explain.
Yeah, you're too good, dude.
So we're going to go in the other direction, and you'll see right here, I have 99 right here. And if you look behind my splits, it's hard to see. I only have 301 souls, and you need 800 to buy one. But because we did this prompt swap glitch, for some reason, Titanite shards, I don't even know why. You can just D-pad down to go from 0 to 99. You just get 99. We're going to use that to get a +5 war pick. And then, so the reason we got 9 Kestises will come up in just a second. Right here, I'm going to move to the Kestises. And now I'm going to select the item, you see, and it's saying insufficient souls. Now what this is doing, there's this internal value that the game constantly is storing depending on a number of different things. And you can take that value, like you don't normally interact or see that value, but you can take it and inject it into other prompts. And the way that value is going to be calculated right now is whenever you highlight an item and select it, it's going to take the quantity of the item that you have of that currently in your inventory and subtract it from the maximum amount you normally can have. And so 9 minus 1 would be, or actually it's 1 minus 9, sorry, would be -8. And so we're going to store a quantity of -8 here by selecting this Kestis. All right. And we're going to then inject that quantity into a drop prompt in just a second to drop -8 Twinkling Titanites, which is going to give us 8. Because, if you subtract 8, you get +8. So that's how we're going to duplicate our Twinkling Titanite. We've already duplicated the Titanite shards. We have 99 of them. And so we're in just a second, we'll have like all the materials we need for the whole run. And I can replay this because this is actually really fast. It's just a lot of complicated stuff going on. And here's another thing. I actually got this.
Nice.
Yeah. So normally when you interact with the bonfire, you can't open up your menu. But if you press start, it's
within like 3 frames.
Yeah, it's pretty precise, but it's not extremely hard. But you need to press A or X to interact with the bonfire, and then press start within a few frames. And you'll see right here, I have the menu selected right here. So I can, during the animation of lighting the bonfire, I can input a brightness dupe, which you're going to see right here. So right now I have the here, let's back up just a little bit. I did that so quick. Oh, it backed up too much. It's okay. All right, so I'm gonna hover over brightness menu option and press A and R1 at the same time, and it's going to overlay the brightness menu with the items in the background. If you notice right here, there's like the normal like inventory in the background, and I can use this to go to the materials menu, select the item that I want to duplicate while brightness is selected here, and then I'm going to go down and then to the right and hit initialize, and it's going to bring up a drop prompt, and that's going to allow me to inject that negative quantity in and drop the twinkling titanite. You have to do some nifty menuing to even get there.
The Larry method.
Yeah, it's left, up, right, up, and that puts you on the right thing. And see, now I'm dropping a quantity of -8. Normally you can't drop a negative quantity, but using this like sequence of weird menuing, you can actually do all this stuff. And I'm going to drop -8. And then now I have 10 twinkling titanite. And then I'm going to pop the soul here because I need souls to upgrade the war pick. And now we have war pick +5. And that was Andre menuing. And that was a lot to explain. I'm sorry. That is like crazy here.
That was really good.
I want to like go and just replay it because it's crazy. Like this is such a difficult thing to get good at. And it looks so cool when you do it well. I feel like I could write a whole book about this like 60 seconds of the run, but here, let's just watch it back in full speed. And this was a really good example of it. Well executed. You see me moving my cursor right there to get the other side. There you go, storing the negative quantity. Running up, and we're gonna get the bonfire lit menu. Got it. Dupe. Got it. Pop the 2K soul. And sit, and then upgrade, and then we're done.
I feel
Very
like
well executed right there.
I feel like menuing and speedruns is sometimes such an undervalued thing.
It is.
It's such a big skill, and then this is taking it to a whole nother level.
Yeah, like I always love really, really intricate and precise and long drawn out menuing, because especially when it actually can go either way. When the game doesn't have a lot of lag, there's a lot of skill there because you can go as fast as possible. If the game does have a lot of lag, there's a lot of experience you need in order to be able to quickly get through that lag. And this game has a bit of both. Like there's some menus that have a lot of lag and some menus that don't. And so it requires a lot of experience to be able to get through them really quickly. Like I drill this thing over and over and over again, trying to get good at this particular menuing. And I would say Dark Souls menuing is one of the more satisfying games out there to get good at. And it's for like an interesting thing. Sometimes in speedrunning, there's these mechanics in the games that are actually kind of like not super well implemented. And I would say they're kind of bad, you could say. But them being not super comfy to use actually gives them a lot of skill, a lot of skill ceiling possible to them. Because it's just so much more difficult to execute this, like what seems like simple thing. It's just menuing, but because
like even quitting out can be a hassle at sometimes.
Yeah, it adds a lot of skill required to get good at it. And it ends up becoming very satisfying, even though it's something that a lot of people might not like at first. Like they're like, oh, I don't like the menuing in this game because it's so tough. But once you get good at it, it's very satisfying. I also really like the sounds that it makes when you menu in this game. It just makes it even more satisfying. All right, so here's another part of this really difficult part where you have to aggro this hollow that's pretty far away, and you're going to use this hollow to perform a skip called Sin's Gate Skip, which we'll explain in a second. But the fastest way to aggro him and the most consistent way is to shoot this bow at this enemy that's standing pretty far away, and this is a pretty annoying setup. QQ, you want to talk about your new setup and just like trying to...
Yeah, so this longbow shot, the shot is very far away, and it's very easy to miss the hollow that you actually want to perform Sin's Gate Skip off of. The way that Regal does it here is he lines up in a very specific part of the leaves right here. He would probably be able to explain it a little bit better.
I'll be able to... I can circle it.
Yeah, draw it. Yes, yeah, circle it. But if you actually walk a little bit further... the hollow actually becomes like very very more obviously visible, like where you're actually supposed to shoot. So a lot more recently, you're going to see some runners actually go a little bit further along. But Regal is so proficient at this one specifically, and it's a little bit faster. So
Yeah, this is just
he
the
would
one
win
I've-
the gold medal.
Yeah,
if those are Olympics.
Give me the longbow SGS gold medal, man, because I deserve it. I put so much time into that. But like, if you haven't practiced this specific iteration of it, you can use the slightly easier one. And whichever one's more consistent for you, I encourage you to do, because it's just missing this is not fun. But where I aim is like, there's this little, it's hard to even see, there's this little circle right here. And I don't even aim at the circle. I aim like to the left of it, just to the left and at the top of it. And it also, aiming in this game is really hard. Because so you can get like 95% of the way there and you're not quite on it. And getting that last 5% is extremely tough because of just, it's just the way that the aiming works, especially on a controller. Doing it by a very small increment is very hard.
They've vastly improved the aiming and bow mechanics in the future FromSoft games, but we got to deal with the hand that we're dealt.
Yeah, but I got the shot, and that was a pretty quick setup too. So
There's also a headshot.
Yeah, this is going straight into Sin's Gate Skip. So what I'm doing here is I'm parrying this hollow in a specific location that's going to slightly clip me out of bounds, and my foot. Here, I can rewind it a little bit. My foot's gonna just slightly peek outside of this like little corridor here, and I'm gonna touch a death cam trigger. There's a kill trigger right underneath it, so if you're too low, your foot will touch the kill trigger and you die. So you want to be standing just on the right spot. If you're too high, you just won't. Nothing will happen. So it's about where these pillars are right here. You see these like two pillars right here. You can do it from either side. This side actually just, because of reasons of how the hollow attacks, ends up being faster. You can do like an instant repost, as you'll see me doing it. And so I'm going to just barely hit that death cam box, and it's going to flip my camera. You'll see it in a second. So here's the quick riposte, flip outside, and then my camera's going to flip, and I'm doing some menuing on the animation. And in this mode, the game thinks that I'm falling to my death right now. If you fall to your death, the game will flip your camera up and get this like really cinematic like look as you're falling to your death. But we didn't actually hit the kill trigger. We just hit the death cam. So we're just in this state. And in this state, the game assumes you're going to die. So to save like memory, it stops loading new assets. But because of that, we can, and because of the exact location we're in, like the Sin's Gate is not loaded whenever we hit that death cam trigger. And it won't load the gate because it's not loading any new assets. So if you just know exactly how to path, like it's kind of like it takes some practice to know where you're going. Like you can look at this, like you can't really see much, especially once you get past like this certain part. Like you're just like blind. But with a bit of practice and some know-how of how to path, and I recommend using keyboard controls for this.
I use controller, but
either
is fine.
If you're having trouble with it, I recommend keyboard. But yeah, just some practice, you'll be able to figure out where to go. And there's a certain jump point I do right here. This is actually crucial. I jump as I pass by the entrance, and then quit out, and then reload, and then the death cam will be gone, and you're just in Sin's Fortress without having to ring the two bells, which is super relevant in this route because a lot of routes they do Sin's Gate skip, but they end up not actually skipping anything. It's just a nice routing feature. But this route, you literally skip an entire boss, the gargoyles. You have to kill Quelaag eventually because you need to go kill her on the way to the other Izalith bosses. But by doing this, you just skip gargoyles completely. You don't go over there at all. But that jump is done in a specific place because this next area, Sin's Fortress, all runs on cycles. And wherever you spawn in will affect what cycles you're going to get because when they load in, they're all going to be on a consistent timer of how they're going to move. So where you load in really affects where you are in the cycle. But this is a pretty comfy segment right here. If you just know what you're doing and know what's going to come at you, it's not very hard to come through. There are some like optimizations that QQ has been doing where you do like this like boulder skip strats that are like kind of tough. There's also a different cycle that you've been working on, I think, that's a little more difficult, right?
Yeah, where you quit out a little bit, like you go basically one more pillar further on the quit out while you're doing Sun's Gate skip, and it just makes it so it seems about like 0.6 seconds in the long run, but like it's just like this segment is so standardized that like any kind of little optimization that we can make is just like such a it's like not, you don't have to do it, but it might be worth it in the long run. So.
Well, from my perspective, it's like first of all, when you're doing a category like this where you have to farm the weapon, consistency is really important. And I've been doing this Sin's Fortress for years. I will like almost never reset here. And then you introduce like something that's a little more difficult, but only doesn't even save a second. Well, it's it's hard to justify that, but it is. I need to look into that, because if it saves a little bit of time and it's not that hard, then it's worth doing. So here's a small little thing here where this boulder is about to come down, and we're just going to quit out here to skip it. And then here is the first RTSR setup. I'm going to jump and take a counter hit from this arrow trap, and that puts me right into RTSR range. Counter hits is if you're like sprinting or jumping or in the middle of an attack, you'll actually take extra damage. So you like intentionally jump there to take a little bit of extra damage. And without RTSR, with this setup, the next boss would be way worse.
Yeah.
It's pretty good with the damage we get with RTSR and the +5 war pick. So historically, we actually used, back when we used to do frame dupes on the elevator, this fight was with a +3 war pick, and it was a lot more precise. It was like basically the same fight, but you had to get a counter hit on Iron Golem. So you had to like time your hit like just right. It was a lot easier to mess up. So here's the first example of the move swap glitch. Right here. So right now I have the S-Stock and the longbow out. So what I'm going to be doing here is I'm going to be inputting a jump, and near the end of the jump animation, my character is going to roll as they touch the ground, and I'm going to then queue up through the action queuing system of the game. I'm going to press L1 to two-hand my bow. Now the bow is the only weapon you can two-hand in your left hand normally. They just made it to where you can two-hand your bow in your left hand. No other weapon you can do that though. So you queue up two-handing it, and then during that rolling animation at the end of the jump, after you queue two-handing, you're going to go into your menu in your inventory and swap out the bow for whatever weapon you're wanting to move swap. And then by the end of it, you'll be two-handing in your left hand the weapon you're trying to move swap. And then because the bow doesn't normally have a running, rolling, or
plunging attack.
Thank you. It'll actually take the information from your right-handed weapon for what attacks it's going to do, the moveset. And the S-Stock or all other thrusting weapons have this like really busted running attack where it does like double hits. And transferring that double hit running attack to like any weapon you want is actually super broken. And you can set this up really quick. So here's what it looks like. So just jump, two hands, swap it out, war pick. Now see, got the war pick in my left hand two-handed. Normally not possible. You'll see what the running attack looks like on Iron Golem. If you pay attention to his HP bar, you'll see like a double tick of damage. And right now we don't have the red tearstone ring on because it actually is faster to put it on this fog wall, because otherwise you'll kill this enemy right here and he'll block you. This is Bob. Bob is actually truly the most annoying part of this whole segment, because that guy just blocks the doorway and will shoot you and kill you. You're like, I've reset to Bob. We call him Bob because he's such a nightmare. He's earned his own name. King of the Hollows. He is just so annoying. But if you kill him with RTSR on, if you have RTSR on, he'll die and it just loses time. So you want to put it on here. And here's the golem fight. So we're going to do a running attack. Get 2 hits. R2 into R2 to stagger him. All right, so it's R2, and then this does 400 damage, which is required to stagger, and then an R1 and a move swap, and he's dead. Very nice fight. And then this is an important thing, this bomb cycle.
Yeah, that was a really good bomb cycle.
The bomb cycle will gatekeep you there. If you get a bad one, you have to heal and roll into it, which will lose you about 3 seconds. So you really want to not have that happen. But sometimes you'll just randomly get a bad bomb cycle. So and right there, I got a good one. Like this whole early game's fantastic. So here we're gonna go to the Anor Londo bonfire. So we want this later, and we also need to upgrade our Black Knight halberd to +5 now that we have souls for it, and we're going to level up to actually use it. I really love this menuing. It's actually kind of hard to do quickly.
I've actually started leveling with a mouse and keyboard.
Oh, really? Yeah, there's some optimizations you can do with mouse leveling in this game that I haven't really implemented myself, but you can save a few frames doing that for sure. And this is going to be the first iteration of a confirmation box dupe. So what I'm doing here is I'm queuing up using the soul on that jump roll, similar to with the move swap. And then I'm going to go in my inventory and use the Estus flask instead. And that just duplicates the soul. It uses a flask, but you get the souls from the core of the Iron Golem. And that's something that you see in like every Dark Souls speedrun. It's really easy and nifty glitch. So we're immediately going to Anor Londo, and right now I'm in the middle of doing a strat called No Hill Anor Londo, which is very scary, but it saves 8 seconds, so it's worth doing. But you're going through Anor Londo at half HP, and everything is just going to one shot you, and you're constantly being bombarded by stuff thrown at your back. So it's sketchy. Like this is, I've always said this is simultaneously the most boring segment of the run and the most stressful at the same time somehow. Yeah, so we get through there pretty easily, and just doing a lot of menuing here. Like I'm actually moving stuff to the top of my inventory to make it easier to drop, and so I can move swap the Black Knight halberd. So that's part of what your inventory management is going to be throughout the run. Is you need to make sure that whatever you're trying to move swap is above the bow. So right there, I moved the war pick out of the way. That's what we were move swapping. Now we're going to move swap the Black Knight halberd. And that also actually indexes, going back to what QQ talked about earlier, indexes the Black Knight halberd. So it's the first thing I can equip, because there's these Silver Knights coming up, which are really annoying. And sometimes you need to equip the halberd to kill them. Like this whole part's really scary. I use audio cues for these Batwing demons here, but a lot of runners just flip their camera around. But these guys just throwing stuff at your back. This is like, you see, I just like dodged that. Like this is so scary to do when you're one hit away from death, but it saves so much time. It's just worth doing, and you get pretty good at it. And I think I get really good Silver Knight RNG here.
Oh my.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was really good.
Yeah, like this early game is so disgusting. Like I have to run against this constantly, and it's disheartening. Like always red every single run. I definitely lose time later on, but this early game is just beautiful, honestly. And so we're coming up to a very, very famous boss fight, Ornstein and Snow, and we are going to make them look stupid because we have. Red Tearstone Ring, so that's double damage, as we talked about earlier. We have Moose Swap. That's going to give us a double hit running attack on our +5 Black Knight halberd. So we are going to just ranch these guys if we don't get bad RNG, because they can still be memers and do weird stuff and get you killed. And if you make a mistake as well. So like a lot of other routes actually use a new strat called AFK ONS. There's this glitch called an AI cancel, which we'll cover later on one particular boss.
Thank God.
Yeah. It's a great strat, but it really doesn't work very well for Ornstein and Smo for this weapon, because this weapon cannot stagger Smo in the second phase of the fight in one running attack. It actually takes 2 running attacks, because the Black Knight halberd deals less poise damage required for staggering the enemies. Staggering enemies is like one of the best parts about Moose Swap, is that you get a double hit, so you just deal massive poise damage. But you don't quite have enough poise damage with the halberd to stagger Smo in one hit, so the AI cancel is just not good for this round.
It ends up being like 7 or 8 seconds slower than like an optimal fight, which
I got like 5 seconds slower with like a really yellow fight. which is like, you don't
I
wanna
did
do anyways.
with like the weird pull away method that I was testing out. It was like 7 or 8.
Yeah, I can
it's just
see that.
it's not worth it.
It's
at
not
all.
worth it, and especially because you just crush them anyways. Like this, just watch. I'm pretty sure I get a good fight here, like with the 1534 ONS. So
Yeah, you do get a really good fight. You get a counter hit on Smo as well.
yeah. So this is a move swap before the fog wall, and you want to enter like just right here. And there's a number of different openings you get. This is the good opening right here. So we're gonna roll past, lock on, move swap. R1, and he's dead. That's a very satisfying experience, especially like some routes you just do not deal this much damage to them. And see, Smo did not stagger there. That is the worst part of the fight. But as soon as you get that first hit, if you get past it, like you're golden. He just dies so quick. And that's the end of the fight, man. Like that's how quick they go down when you get good RNG. And that's the end of the, well, basically the end of the beginning of the run, where you're just getting the Lord Vessel, which we're going to get in just a second. We're going to shoot Guinevere because she talks and takes way too long. This saves, I think it saves about 8 seconds to shoot her versus just talking to her. And here's another key setting skip that the Lord Vessel would bring up a pop prompt that prevents you from running. And then we're going to go to Firelink Shrine, drop some stuff and equip some stuff. So the next phase of the run is going to be conquering all the Lord Soul bosses. And there's some routing considerations for what order you do the different ones. The first one we're going to do is Beta Chaos. And the reason for that, the main reason, is that the bosses in Izalith, this section that we're about to go through, are actually really easy to kill with a +5 Black Knight Halberd. You don't really need much more than that. And you will get a lot of souls from clearing this area out. So going here immediately is just generally like a good idea. Like you're going to be, we're going to be able to level up to 28 endurance after this segment, which is going to allow us to fast roll with the move swapped Black Knight Halberd. But you want to be able to fast roll because, you know, there's an equip load stat in this game, and if you have more endurance, then you can roll faster, you can move faster. And if we go through Izalith first, we can get that for the rest of the run, and you don't really need that for Izalith at all. And you only need like a few points of, like, you actually don't even need that much. Like, we're going to level up right here. We're going to level up 12 Vit, which is just mostly for comfort, and we're going to want to level up Vit anyways for later on in the run. Then you're going to get 15 endurance, which is basically just, oh, we have souls left over, so we're pumping up endurance. We're going to want more anyways later. And then we're going to get 28 strength, which we're going to carry 28 strength for a long part of the run. And it's going to save some hits in Izalith for us anyways. We're just wanting to spend our souls, and it helps with some comfort, and the strength is relevant anyways. And then we're going to immediately go into probably the coolest skip in the run, in my opinion.
Yeah,
I think you would agree,
probably.
QQ.
Yeah, I just recently revamped my setup on it, so
Yeah, we were talking about that
I was kind of skeptical as to, you know, how much I liked this skip before, but I like it again.
Yeah,
So.
this is going to be Blighttown skip. So anybody that is doesn't like going into Blighttown in this game, well, you can skip it, but it's about 100 times harder to skip it. But if you really don't like that area, you can learn this skip and just never have to go there again. And so I have all this stuff equipped here, and this is relevant because the equip load is relevant. There's some minor differences between the fast roll tiers. Even if I'm at fast roll right here, being at a higher tier of fast roll actually impacts the setup here. So I'm going to be going into this corner, and I'm going to be getting stuck in it right here. You see me running into it, walking backwards, and I'm going to aim in a very specific spot. So QQ's Q is he zooms in. He does this whole zooming thing, which is
Actually
fine.
for the no armor I don't zoom.
Oh, really?
I I had to copy you guys' setup.
Okay, well, so
I
he's
used like the
reformed.
bottom. Yeah.
He's reformed, not zooming anymore. But so basically what I'm doing here is I'm lining up like a dot over another dot here. And it's kind of hard to see unless you're actually in the game. But yeah, I'm gonna get there and then input a bow shot, and I'm gonna cancel the bow shot with a roll. And this is to just lock me in place. Because if you try to roll in this game, you actually have to input a direction forward in order to roll, which if I do that, I'll more than likely take a step forward, and that's going to completely screw up my positioning here. And the positioning is very important. So I'm going to do a bow shot and then cancel it with a roll, and that will make sure I roll from a very specific spot. And so now my position is stored like over here by the wall, or actually more like it's on like the edge here. There's this like thing with this game called stable ground, where the last location you were on, where your character was standing in stable ground, is where it's going to be where you're going to spawn whenever you quit out of the game. This game aggressively auto saves like all the time, but there's some parts of the game like this elevator that I'm standing on that is not stable ground. So if I quit out while standing on this elevator, I am going to spawn off of it. And that whole setup I just did was to make sure I'm going to spawn in a very specific spot along the edge. Okay. And so now I'm on the elevator, and I'm going to be riding it down. Now I'm going to get in another specific spot to get stuck in this corner here. You see me backstepping. That gets me locked in place. I'm going to do another aim setup, so I roll in a fairly precise, but not super precise area. This part is a lot less precise than the part up top. But what I'm going to do here is just do another bow cancel roll. You could also do a backstep roll. You just want to like not take a step forward when you do that. I'm going to barely touch this part of the game, New Londo Ruins, and then immediately backstep into it. It's going to save. It's not going to store my position here because my character is not going to be in this area long enough for it to actually update my position. I think there's like a 4-frame buffer window, and if you backstep onto the elevator before that window elapses, it won't update your position, but the game will update your last zone that you're in. So when I eventually quit out, I'm going to spawn up top. See me backstep in? I'm going to quit out, spawn up top on stable ground, but the game's going to load New Londo Ruins first, which means I'm going to clip right through the ground and fall here. And it looks like I die, but I don't. I don't die. Here's another. This is a sequence of miracles that's happening right here of how this game works. So because I spawned in the air, for some reason, the game just gives you a different animation on your splatter that you do when you die. There are ways to splatter and die, but have the damage delayed to where you don't instantly die. And this is one of the ways you can do it. So even though I hit the ground and die, let's back up just a little bit. I'm going to hit the ground and die, but you'll notice my HP value doesn't reduce to 0 instantly. Normally, it would reduce immediately to 0, and you would just like immediately die. But it doesn't quite do it immediately. See, I have input the quit out. You see the load screen coming up here, and my HP is still like full because of this thing where if you spawn in midair, you get this extended splatter animation. But since I hit the ground here, my position is going to be stored here. Remember the stable ground thing? I'm going to spawn on this little seam right here. But I won't be dead. Now, when I reload, I'm going to immediately start aiming for another bow setup. Because behind me is it's a lethal drop to where I want to go. But just above where I want to go, there's another seam that I can land on. So I'm going to do a very specific setup here with the bow again. I aim like right here. See where my crossbow or my crosshair is right there? That's where I line it up. And as soon as I get there, I'm going to do a backstep and then a roll backwards. And while zoomed in, because if you're zoomed in, you only have 4 different directions that you can roll. So it heavily simplifies the directions that you can roll in. So I'm going to do that. I'm going to land on the seam, roll forward, and then land down here. This would be a lethal drop, but because I hit that seam above and dropped down here, I survived. And I'm going to do a backstep. This is just an optimization and pathing. And then this is This is the hard part. So I just went through all that interesting part, but this is actually the part that's difficult. This is just a pixel wide seam stretching all the way to the end here, and this takes like hundreds of hours of practice to get good at. Because you like when you first start doing it, you just literally don't even know like where to go. Like you can't see anything, and you just have to like memorize the pathing through like sheer practice.
A lot of runners have like their own like visual cues that they use to actually like navigate it. So like
I don't really have any hard visual cues. They're kind of just subtle things that I know from just experience. But yeah.
like when my character starts like elevating as you're getting up, I
so
start
you
turning
like cut
right here.
to the left right here. Yep.
Yep.
This is a really tough part. And at the end here, what I'm going to do is a trick called a delayed roll plunge. So there's a glitch in this game you can do. If you plunge a slope, your character enters this like extended animation where you can actually input a roll out of it and roll in the air. Like the game thinks that you've landed, but you're still in like the plunge animation. So you get into this like weird free fall state. You can still roll and you can iframe fall damage doing it. But we're going to be using a more advanced version of that, where we're going to be doing a delayed roll. Using a weird keyboard setup, we're going to be able to roll without pressing the forward button, the forward key too early to where it doesn't break the animation we're in, which allows us to roll much later. But first, we're going to do this hilt boost. This is why you get the hilt, by the way. Because doing this without the hilt is very annoying. But you just fling off here, plunge the surface, and then eventually do delayed roll, and you're in Quilog's domain. No Blighttown necessary. Completely skip that area. Now, if you really hate Blighttown and you have about 100 hours to spare, you can learn how to never go to Blighttown again, which, I don't know, might end up saving you time in the long run. But yeah, that's the coolest skip in the game. There's a ton of different things that make it work. It's honestly a miracle that it even works at all. And shout out to Kamol and Capitaine Toinon for finding this and getting it to work, because it's incredible. And Androv also, shout out to him for making this work in the wrong warp specifically. And so we're immediately just going straight to Quilog. And you notice we don't have Red Tear Stone Ring here, because it's like it would save us some hits on Quilog, but it's just takes too long to set up, and we would have to heal afterwards anyways, which also loses time. So we're going to be doing Quilog without Red Tear Stone Ring, which is annoying because the RTSR fight's quite nice. What we want to do here is you actually want to hit the woman part of the spider on top. It staggers her. I actually messed this up because like you can stagger her even through the jumps. Like this is a pretty bad fight right here. So this is where the run starts to go downhill. Yeah, basically everything.
I didn't realize that the fight was this bad.
Yeah, everything was really good until this part. And there's going to be an even worse thing that happens up here. So I'm gonna drop down, and I'm gonna be in Red Tear Stone Ring range because there's this drop down here that we're about to do for a skip. All right, see, Red Tear Stone Ring range, great. So that's quit out. Oh no!
Oh my god!
I healed. So yeah, you don't want to heal there. Again, QQ was talking about this earlier. Like you can see the look on my face. I'm like, oh no.
Yeah.
QQ was talking about how hard it is to actually quit out in this game, and that is 100% true. I just input the quit out way too quickly, and I ended up healing.
Probably my most common quit out mistake is accidentally changing my camera to reverse.
Yeah, that is probably the most common
inputs are inverted. Yeah.
Yeah. So that's going to end up losing us time on this subsequent boss fight that we're about to happen. But we're doing a skip right here, and it's called Fire Sage Elevator Clip. So as I was saying earlier, you cannot save your position on elevators, and this little circular thing, it's like about to spawn in. See this little thing right here? It is not stable ground. So we can't stand right over it, but we can hang a little foot off of it like we have right here. And that will give us our stable position like right around here. And if you notice on these quitouts, this little elevator right here is not there when we first load in. So we can actually fall through where it is. But because it's unstable ground, we can't normally go there. However, the stand-up animation from a quit out actually moves you slightly backwards. If you just stand in the right spot and spam the quit out over and over again, you just fall right through.
There is a chance on the way down, though, that you just hit a random collision of a branch and just die.
Yes, which is always really fun. You'll see the branch as we fall. This is a bunch of quit outs, too. And after we clip through, we're going to be falling what looks like to our death, but because Fire Sage Demon, which is the boss right below us, actually is able to be plunge attacked, because it's literally just a copy of Asylum Demon, we can prevent dying from this, what would be lethal fall, by just plunging right on his face. And since we do so much damage to his brain, he doesn't move at all. Which actually, it's just because we don't hit the AI trigger. He just stands there and we wail on him. And so I always say this is like the best boss in the game, because he doesn't do anything and he lets you do a cool skip. It's the best boss. But unfortunately, we healed. So we had to do a lot more hits on him, and that's like it's either the biggest or the second biggest time loss of the whole run.
Yeah, normally you just R2 him and then R1 him and he's dead after the plunge.
And that skip specifically is why you can go to Beta Chaos so early before you even place the Lord Vessel, which is what we're going to be doing on subsequent segments here. But that skips the Golden Fog Gate as well. Like, that's a huge skip, and it's not even possible in the remaster, but because of how that elevator loads, it loads in too quickly. And here's a really annoying boss fight. He's either easy or a nightmare. We have to use the lava to set him up. This is Centipede Demon, so there's some specific pathing I'm going to be doing here to get him to jump, which he doesn't do, but this is like scuffed RNG because he just acted weird, but it actually ends up being like scuffed RNG that saves time, because it is slightly slower to get the scripted kill where he does this like jump and you kill him every time, but it's like slightly slower. That's why you do the pathing, to manipulate him into doing that. But he didn't do it there, and I actually ended up getting a better fight because of it.
Yeah, in my previous PB, he actually did a jump, and I clipped him on his way up.
Oh yeah,
I popped off when that happened.
Nice. Yeah, that you can hit him on the way up, and that it looks pretty scary. You can also hit him as he's jumping away, which I pop off every time I do that, because he can jump away from you and into the lava, and it's like the worst thing. Okay, so here's a section of the run that looks terrible, visually, but it's pretty comfy to run through. You just need to know the pathing that you need to take, and these bounding demons, or dragon butts as they're commonly called, just don't really mess with you, like, almost ever. It's honestly pretty boring running section.
The most annoying part is probably the witch at the end of it next to the Beta Chaos.
Right. There's some pathing you can do, though, to make her also kind of irrelevant. So this is just a long run to the Bed of Chaos, which is a notorious boss for this game. Many casual players hate the boss, which is totally understandable. But we're going to be doing a really cool strat that you might know called Toki Bombs, discovered by a runner named Toki in, I think, 2013.
Very early on the Game lifespan.
Yeah, it's been around for a long time. And I highly recommend learning this for anyone that plays this game a lot, because this will make, like, arguably the worst boss in the game, like, kind of a joke. So we're going to be standing in a specific spot, and we're going to be doing a bow setup. There's a lot of bow setups, honestly. as the game gets older and more strats are figured out, we have more and more bow setups. But this is one of the first ones. We're going to stand in a specific spot and toss a couple fire bombs, and it's going to completely skip, like, the first, like, 2 phases of the fight, where you have to go around and kill these orbs on the side in order to get into the center part to actually punch this bug boss. It's like a one-hit kill boss. It's like super easy, but just getting to the middle is such a nightmare normally, because there's like all this stuff falling and the boss is doing all this crazy stuff. But just run here and aim, throw a couple bombs. There's one. I got the throw before the cutscene, which is hype. There's 2, and that was actually, those are bad rolls right there. But there's a chance that this boss will actually do an attack called a Firestorm, which can kill you in this part. Even after you've done, like, the boss fight, you can still die, like, on this part. So we take out the boss, and so this is, like I said, one of the worst segments of this particular run. Up until like ONS, great run, really good pace, and then Quelaag was mostly good, although the fight wasn't great, and I healed, and that heal ended up losing us a ton of time on this segment. Other than that, pretty good run so far. And then we're moving on to the next part of the run, which is we're going to be trying to place the Lord Vessel. There's 2 Lord Soul bosses that we need to take out, Seath and Nito, that have very relevant golden fog gates that you can't at least easily or quickly skip. There is a fog gate skip for Seath, but you don't really want to do it because it's a little bit slower than just running through normally, and we can just avoid it completely by placing the Lord Vessel with Kath. So we want to kill 4 kings. In order to kill 4 kings, we have to kill Sif to get the Covenant of Artorias, and that's what we're going to be doing in a second. And I think this is a good time for a 5-minute break. Is that okay? Nick?
Perfect. Yeah. We will go ahead, chat. We're going to take a quick little break here. Get you an opportunity to get up, stretch, maybe get a snack, refill your drinks. But when we come back, we'll finish up the Dark Souls run by Regal.
All right.
Hey, all you cool cats and gamers, welcome back to Victory Lap, the GDQ Hotfix Show that highlights recent world record, personal best runs, and the runners who made them happen. I'm your host, Nuclear, and tonight I've got with me Regal going over his world record run for Dark Souls any percent no wrong warp. Before we get back into the run, though, just a few announcements. If you're watching on YouTube, be sure to press that like button on this video and subscribe to the channel. Also, go to twitch.tv/GamesDoneQuick if you're interested in looking at our live content starting weeknights at 7 p.m. Eastern and weekends at 1 p.m. Eastern. Also, if you want to follow what GamesDoneQuick is up to, use the command links in Twitch chat for all things GDQ. And with that, I'm going to hand things over to Regal to get us back into the run. Take it away.
Thank you, Nuke. All right, I'm back. So we're gonna go right back into the Sif segment, as I was talking about before. Something I actually forgot to mention earlier is one of the reasons that we wanted to go to Beta Chaos earlier, in addition, is that we get to rest at this bonfire here, which is nice because we want to kind of keep this as our hub for a bit. And that's where, I'm spawning here right now. We're going to warp to Undead Parish. We want to warp back for 4 Kings later, so it's nice to just have this already as our bonfire. So when we come back for 4 Kings, we're already here. That actually is an optimization that I think I can't remember when we had. It was probably when we started doing +5 and we weren't going to Sif after ONS. It's just nice that we already have this bonfire here. We're going to go, and with all those souls that we got from Izalith, we're going to get 28 endurance so we can fast roll with all of our gear from now on. And right now I have my cursor set up on the ability to prompt swap at Andre. You can't see it because the cursor captures off, but I'm going to prompt swap the Crest of Artorias here. See right there, real quick. Normally it's like 20,000 souls. I didn't have nearly that much, but I just prompt swapped it and bought it basically for really cheap. And we're immediately going into an RTSR setup on this Titanite Demon.
That was really good. That was really quick.
That was good RNG. That guy can do some weird stuff that can lose you some time, but that was a pretty good one. So you take a counter hit and then you do a strat called a toggle escape. So you toggle like right as you get hit and it escapes the stagger, and then you do another counter hit sprinting at him, but block it with the shield, and that gets you like a really nice setup with the 12 vit that you have at this point in the run. And then this is just like running through the forest here to get to this door, which the Crest of Artorias opens, and you do a quit out here, just basic stuff. And so normally, or previously, we would do a skip here called Ruin Skip to get a piece of armor, a really good piece of armor called the Stone Armor, which we use for multiple different reasons. But now, because of a newer strat, you don't have to pick it up anymore, and it only saves 6 seconds to skip it, but that's still some time, especially because you don't really need it anymore anyways. And but the best thing is that you don't have to do ruin skip anymore, because that skip is so freaking annoying. And I lost so many runs just from, like, you lose like 10 seconds if you miss it if you're picking up stone armor. So like just not having to do that anymore, like, oh, it's so nice. And then we're going to be moving on to Sif here, and we're going to be doing quit out at the door, which skips the animation, but it also messes up Sif's AI, which historically has been a problem. But we've actually figured out some strats that make the quit out AI that Sif has advantageous. And you'll be seeing this with the Hornet Ring pickup that I'm going to be doing. We want the Hornet Ring for Gwyn, the final boss. It's going to save time on him. We're also going to be doing a moose swap fight on Sif, which historically we also did not moose swap on Sif either. These are some newer strats that have been recently incorporated. These are strats that were incorporated by QQ first. Shout out to my co-commentator here. When he got the world record from me previously, when I had a 3756. QQ beat me with the 3753 with like a bunch of new strats. And I had finally come back to this category and incorporated them. One of them was...
Yeah, just stop me immediately.
It took a little bit of time. So the stone armor skips one of them. The moose swap Sif fight is another one of them. And the moose swap Sif fight was previously really annoying, but this new strat where you just run at him and attack him makes it so much nicer. And you see it right here. So attack R1 and then moose swap. This is
full
called
combo. Nice.
Yes, the full combo. That was like a perfect Sif fight. So this is another reason why this helped me get record for sure, is just having a really good Sif fight. That can go so wrong. That boss is very annoying.
Yeah, Sif is incredibly cringe.
So here is immediately going into the Four Kings segment. Now that we have the Covenant of Artorias, we can go to Four Kings and fight them, get a Lord Soul, and place the Lord Vessel through Kath, one of the primordial serpents. This is a RTSR setup that I'm doing right here, which we used to do like a pretty slow but also cool setup using like these back steps with stone armor that was like really consistent and comfy. But this like semi-cursed setup where you have to run around the side here, I'll show it again. You like take a little bit of chip damage from this drop, and then I'm going to equip a piece of armor to put me in a higher tier of equip load. You'll take a little damage there. I'm going to equip the hood to get in a higher tier of equip load, and then run to the wall and parry and backstep, and that's going to put me just above RTSR range, or it actually might put me exactly in it. I'm not sure what I get here.
There is an even more cursed but faster method of setting up RTSR for this, which is essentially a jump that you do right next to the bonfire that abuses the physics engine of the game a little bit, just to like boost you off of a bench, and it props you up just a little bit too high and ends up getting you fall damage, but it's really inconsistent, and it doesn't, even if you get the jump, it doesn't always get you fall damage. So.
Right. So that's a way that you can definitely improve on this record, is like there's like these like tiny little meme strats that save like a couple seconds, maybe a couple seconds. But they are really hard to do consistently, and if you fail them, you're just going to lose time. So most runners, including me, just don't do them, especially for a route like this where consistency is key. When you're only 25% of your runs even get started. So I am a big proponent of consistency for this run, and I don't go for some of the bitch skip stuff like QQ was mentioning. Although at some point, you're going to have to if you want to PB. But luckily, we're not there yet. So we're moving to a skip called Seal Skip. Normally, you would have to run all the way to this enemy, or not enemy, this NPC named Ingward, and acquire a key and open a door and pull a crank to lower this water that's out here. Because like normally you can't go into the water because it'll kill you. But that's pretty slow, and there's a way we can use a thing called a slope quit out, which is similar to that drop on Blighttown skip, as in my death will be delayed on fall damage. We're going to quit out as I like essentially die and skip the death, then end up below the water. And here's a really cool setup for it. It's called Ivan Seal Skip, because the runner that found it, his name's Ivan. You can do a running attack at a certain spot here, and you just like fall real quick. Right there. There's a well executed one right there. So I'm going to respawn, and I'm just down below where the water is normally. and then do another quit out here because I get a death cam. And I'm going to reload, and I'm actually going to be walking in water, which is funny to see. Like, if Sekiro wasn't the first FromSoft game with swimming in it. It actually was Dark Souls 1. See me running through the water here. And this is going to allow us to drop out of bounds. It skips the whole inward thing, where you have to open the seal. But it also drops us in at a nice location to where we can get to the first king when they spawn in quickly. Because if you fell in through the normal drop location, there's a high likelihood you get a really bad magic attack from them. But if you can get to their spawn quickly, they almost never do it. So that's just another advantage of doing this. So we're going to drop an item. This item is actually to tell us where we are. You see this item on the ground right there? So in this abyss, there's really no reference points. It's really hard to tell where you are. So we drop an item right here to know where we're going to be, or know where we landed, because the second king is going to spawn in. They all spawn in at a consistent location, and the second king is going to spawn pretty close to where this item is. So this is just a marker for us to know where we are. And I know exactly where to go for the first king, so I'm going to do a move swap here and do a scripted sequence of attacks here. You start off with an R1. And I'm going to be doing a few move swaps followed by a full combo, which is going to be move swap, R1 move swap. You can do all of that at 28 endurance, which is what I did on Sif a moment ago. That is the most damage you can do with a one stamina bar at 28 endurance. So we're basically going to be pummeling this guy with as much damage as possible to reduce as much of his HP, of the entire king's HP bar, to where by the time we get to the second king, we can just kill him normally, and then the boss is dead. It's called 4 kings, but we're only going to see 2. Here's the move swap right here, and here comes the full combo. Just have to dodge his attack. Now I have all day on this guy because the second king spawns on a timer. So it doesn't really matter how quickly I kill this guy. As long as you don't take all day, you get to the second king, like, with plenty of time. Like, you see, I'm just waiting here from the spawn.
Coming away to the song.
Yeah, that's a classic thing. It's like, you don't have much else to do here but hum the music. And the music is actually nice because it tells you when he's going to spawn. And then you can just kill him with 2 move swap attacks, which I actually mess up here. And this is another way. What's up, QQ?
I was going to say, oh, you got the circle strafe. That's nice.
Yeah, so I messed up this move swap attack there, so I barely missed the killing blow on him, so I had to, like, run around and kill him. It, like, lost, like, I don't know, 6 seconds here. So that's another way that I can save time on future runs. So that was 2 kings, and here we're going to talk to Kath and place the Lord Vessel. And now all the golden fog gates are gone. So we can easily go to Duke's Archives to take care of Seath. Now, it used to be you really wanted to do Seath before Nito because you wanted to kill some crystal lizards in the crystal caves right before Seath. So you could upgrade your Black Knight Halberd to +4 for the Nito fight. But now you already have +5. So it's not as important to do Seath, but you still want to get some HP for the Seath fight, or for the Nito fight. So you want to go through the Seath segment, get some souls, and then do a level up on Nito segment. So it still is relevant to do Seath first before Nito. And that's where we're going now.
Yeah, make sure you say yes on that one.
And this is just a extended running section here. We're heading to the Duke's Archives. There's some boars on the way. We're gonna do a cool strat where you like roll through the boar.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, this is honestly just another one of the long running segments in the game. There are a couple of those, but like I think that the intricacies of like some of the other things kind of outweigh the boring parts.
Yeah, well, sometimes it's nice to have a little break. But yeah, like these running sections can be a little boring. Let's say
boring.
That's like,
pun intended.
yeah. That's one of the ways that I think Dark Souls speedruns could be improved is a little more movement tech. Here's the dodge through the boar. You just iframe right through him, which looks really cool. And so, like previous routes where we did different level ups, we used to get more HP. We would do a lot of dupes here with the confirmation box dupes of boss souls. But we don't need as many souls anymore, so you can just like ride the elevator. Don't have to do anything. And we're equipping some armor here for fall damage purposes. This part's not as bad as it is in other routes because you don't have to kill that golem on the side because we're not going to the DLC. But it can still be scary. I get through unscathed, I think, though. And we're going to go to the right. Oh, no, I went to the...
Oh, you go to the left here?
No,
oh, you don't
because
do the upward.
I don't do the... So there's normally an upward that you do here, which... Similar to the dark route based upward we did by the Black Knight. There's a setup you can do to warp to the top of the elevator here and skip the ride, which saves some in-game time. But since I had like just come back to the category, and I've been running 1.0 for like 3 weeks, and I just like forgot to do it. So I lost like 2 seconds because I just forgot to do the upward. But it's not a huge time loss, but that's another way I can save time. So here comes Duke Skip, which is a very famous skip. This skip is one of the oldest in the game. However, it used to be pretty tough and hard to do consistently. Like you needed a lot of practice at it, but we have a new setup for it, which uses a bow that makes it quite easy. The one negative thing about it is that you take a little less fall damage, which is why I have this armor on. But this method that you're going to see me do is like so much simpler and easier to execute without screwing up. It's like
definitely thanks to the standardized movements that are permitted.
Yeah.
That we're able to do with the bow.
Right.
We're via a series of inputs. Could you rewind it a little bit so
Yeah,
I
sure.
could just explain it a little bit? So as he goes up the elevator, when he pulls the lever, he's going to center his camera by pressing down his analog stick, and that lets us be straight right here. And he's going to do a roll to the right, forward, and then backwards. So he winds up on this railing, and as soon as he sees a very specific visual cue, he's going to roll, and that just skips the entire prison sequence of the run.
Yep.
Like it saves what, like 4 minutes or something?
Yeah. So normally you take a scripted death to the boss Seath the Scaleless if you continue past that elevator, and it would warp you to this prison section of the run that you have to like escape the prison to get out. It's a really long segment, and it saves about 4 minutes. Like you just completely skip that entire thing, and it's fantastic. One of the oldest skips in the game. It used to be a tough skip, not that tough anymore. And so here we're gonna get into some much more difficult part of the segment that doesn't save quite as much time, but we're going to be doing like the most advanced method of crystal caves here, which is going to be a ladder skip coming up, which is going to save us a little time by not taking the ladder down, but more importantly, it's going to deal a lot of fall damage to us, which is part of why we have this armor equipped. And it's going to help us set up Red Tier Stone Ring, and then we're going to do a slope quit out. Like the thing we did at Sill Skip, like the thing we did on Blighttown Skip, we're going to delay the fall damage and quit out, respawn safely. But we need to take enough damage to have Red Tier Stone Ring for Seath, so we're going to take this ladder skip here, which happens to just be faster anyways. So it's a nice little trick here. It can be easy to screw up. I actually had a pretty good one here. Like that was quite fast. And then I'm going to unequip all this stuff. Then we're going to be going into Crystal Caves here. And I think I get our TSR off this jump here. There we go.
Yeah, you should. If you jump off, you usually get it.
Mm-hmm. And so then we have the slope quit out coming out. Now this slope quit out is very easy to mess up. And if you mess it up, there's a good chance you will just die and your whole run's over. But if you do this version of Crystal Caves, it can save like 20 seconds over the easy method.
Oh.
So I do mess it up here, but I don't die. So this is yet another time save. Like I really do lose a lot of time in the back half of this run, but like the beginning was so strong that even with these like little mishaps later on, I still ended up with a decent time by the end of it. And so there was a successful version of it. And see, now I'm spawned down here. Now that saves like a ton of in-game time. It's quite a big save, but it is very easy to lose your runs there. And then we're going to be doing a certain type of pathing here where we're going to be aggroing these clams forward, and then we're going to be running in between two of them. That's going to cut off all the other clams, so we can get into the Seath fight without these clams being in the fight with us. There's a good chance they'll kill us if they get in there with us. So that was a pretty good example of the pathing right there. And I'm going to jump into the trigger here and shoot his crystal, which is going to make me able to damage him. And then move swap, and then it's just a couple move swaps into an R2 to finish him off. Easy boss. As long as you don't get clams, this boss is... As long as you don't clams and you don't mess up your move swap, the boss is free. So as long as you don't make these other mistakes, you won't really die to this boss. And then that's Seath. And then here we're going to come up to the final, or the penultimate segment, where we're going to do the final level up of the run. So this is a big difference between what QQ did, actually, versus what I'm doing. So QQ implemented a lot of new strategies versus my previous record, the 3756. But he didn't implement this, which is, this is what I implemented. So this is the big difference between my and QQ's run, is we're going to only get 16 vit here. Previously, we would get 24 vit here for the Nito fight, because Nito is a lot comfier when you have more HP. But due to recent strats, it really doesn't matter how much HP you have for Nito. But you do want some vit for the red tier stone ring setup on the final boss. So we're going to get 16 vit. The thing is, though, since we don't level up as much vitality, we have a lot more souls to get 32 strength, which is going to let us one-hand the Black Knight Halberd, which is going to let us do an alternative strategy on the final boss that saves about 2.5 seconds. And it's mostly just because HP for Nito is mostly irrelevant now. So we just don't need nearly as many souls, don't need as many levels for Vit. So you're going to see me go 16 and then 33 because we have one extra level up left. And then Firelink's trying to go to what has historically been the worst segment of the run. But
now it's actually like decently comfy if you can get the...
It's
the
not
Nito
that bad
tech.
anymore. Yeah. It's crazy how this went from being like, oh, I hope it used to be just get all of your runs to this segment as consistently as possible, because you're just going to run into this brick wall and then eventually you'll break it down. But now with like there's a newer plunge fall damage cancel I'm going to do in a second, which makes Catacombs a little better.
Then you can actually keep move swap from Seath.
Yeah, which I still not even doing that, but that is cool. There's a new way to get through Catacombs, which is this segment's like not hard. There's just a lot of really annoying enemies, particularly bone wheels. This guy hits me. Jeez. But it's fine, like whatever. This enemy right here can be annoying. There's these bone wheel skeletons, which are annoying, but it used to be there was a plunge that we would do where these other enemies could like knock you out of it, which would be really annoying. But this newer fall damage cancel with another delayed roll, like we did on Blighttown Skip, so we will be able to take a really long drop and still be able to do a fall damage cancel here. This just skips like the whole segment. Just walk off here, plunge, and then delayed roll, boom, done. Now, you can still definitely die on this segment, but it's like a lot better than it used to be. Mm-hmm. And then we come into the easiest boss of the run, I suppose. A lot of memes surrounding this boss, Pinwheel. Oh, I messed up the moose.
Oh my gosh.
It's such a trade. What an awful world record, guys. Honestly, it's great that you get 32 strength because you don't even lose that much time to that move swap anymore. Mm-hmm. So yeah, there's Pinwheel.
You don't even have to do that move swap anymore.
True,
because
exactly. Yeah, I shouldn't have even lost time there because I could have just saved it from Seath. Yeah, see, I should have listened to QQ beforehand. All right, so now we're going to be going into Tomb of the Giants, which is Tomb of the Giants has been like pretty good for a long time. Like this is a really cool pathing you're about to see to get through the area really quickly, which this is like one of my favorite parts of the run to just run through because the pathing's so cool. Previously, we'd have done this with like Grass Crisp Shield on and stuff, but there's a new strat with Nito that we're going to explain when we get there. So now I only have like a bow on. Although I will say that I did do an older version of the newer strat for this run because we hadn't implemented the newer version of the newer strat just yet. So the needlefight does not go super well, but I don't die at the very least. Yeah, spoilers. But this
spoilers,
is really
you get world record.
well. I have a bad needlefight though, so we're gonna see that. But this Tomb of the Giants pathing is always really cool. You just see these people like running through the darkness. No, you know exactly where to go. It just looks really nice. And there's a fog gate skip right here, which gives us a little more damage, but it just saves like 3 seconds over taking the fog wall above there. It's not a super hard jump, but it's really easy to mess up and die. And here's a little boost jump. It's really easy to do. It saves I don't know, maybe like 8 seconds, maybe less, something like that. And then we're through Tomb of the Giants, like so quick. Not even that hard. Just take some practice and knowing where to go. All right, so now we have the BKH equipped. We're two-handing it, which is important. So we're going to be coming up to a somewhat newer type of strat that has been utilized quite a bit in the 100% and all bosses categories. It's called an AI break. This strat is kind of taking over the game right now. And it's really cool. It just ends up there's only really one good use for it in No Wrong Warp right now, but it is the best use for it ever because it turns
definitely
this boss, Dito, who has just been the bane of every No Wrong Warp runner's existence, and even other categories. Like, he's still annoying. But No Wrong Warp specifically just gets owned by this boss for years and years. And now there is a strat that makes this guy like 100% like consistent. You should kill him every time. At worst, you lose like 2 seconds if he does a specific RNG, the AoE. And I'll explain what it is. But so this version I'm going to do in here is actually an older version of it that we ended up figuring out it didn't work as well. Now we have a newer version that works way better. And I wish I knew about it here because I lose like 10 seconds to the fight. But what I'm going to be doing is I'm going to quit out to reset this global AI timer that's running in the background. So every 5 seconds, this timer updates, and let's see if I can explain this right. This timer updates, and enemies will add new targets to their list of targetable enemies, which would be you. It happens every 151 frames, which is 5 seconds. But for some reason, if you are equipping or unequipping gear or inputting a toggle, you're just invisible to that timer update. You have to input that at that 151st frame. So what you can do is if you time your equip or unequip or toggle properly, the boss just doesn't add you to their list, or the enemies too don't add you to their list, and they just don't see you. It's like you're invisible to them. The problem is it's very precise. So what we have to do is like a sequence of action queued inputs that guarantees that we are going to be inputting a toggle at that exact frame. And in order to consistently do that, first we have to quit out, because the quit out will reset that timer to a consistent setting. So I'm going to do a quit out here, and the first queued action is going to be an unequip. You'll see me go to the inventory, and then I'm just going to do a bunch of toggles. These are all action queued, so they're coming out frame perfect the same way every time. And you will see the boss basically not react to me, and I can just run up and kill these skeletons. And that's like the worst part of the fight. It's just these skeletons. Nito himself is not that bad. See, they're not doing anything to me. And I can just clear them out. Yeah, this is the one cycle, which is why I did not go super well. I had to get the AoE here and how to run away. Mm-hmm. So we have a better way to deal with this now with a double cycle AI skip. So I wouldn't have had to do this runaway here. But yeah, even still, like, this is still so much better than what we had been doing before. The boss went from being like just a 25% chance you even survive the boss to like 100% you'll kill him every time. At worst, you lose like 2 seconds. Mm-hmm. So
it's so much better than what it used to be.
I have dubbed it the best strat ever. that is just what I call
Honestly,
it. What's the
I would
strat
not-
called?
I would not
it's
argue
called.
with you.
It's called the best strat ever. That's the name of it.
I would not argue with you on that. It is such a boon.
I've had so much suffering at this boss, and he's dead. He's dead forever.
Thank you,
And
Kamul.
then, yes, thank you, Kamul. We owe you so much. Kamul discovers all kinds of strats and glitches for this game, and he figured this whole thing out for Nito. And Nito's a particularly annoying AI cancel setup because of all the drop into the boss room and all this other stuff. But he put in the time and figured it out. So shout out to him. That is going to save new runners a lot of frustration. And that was the final Lord Soul. So you see right now I'm plus 11. Spoiler alert, I do not make up this plus 11. That's because I'm just like comparing against a cheated run. Don't tell anybody, but I cheated to get this. I cheated to get this 37-32. So that is the current gadget record, is what we call it, because people do these gadget runs with practice Black Knight halberds, just to get used to the route. And I did that and got a 37-32. So I'm running against those splits, but this is with a real halberd, which separates the difference from it. Still a pretty good run though. Definitely beatable, but the early game really carried this run. Like that early game was it's such a nightmare to run against, but I have all these time saves later that it's not a big deal.
Yeah, in the early game, you were about 20 seconds ahead of my PB.
Yeah.
Which was,
Yeah.
I mean, even more time saved throughout the run.
Oh, yeah.
This category can get pushed so far right now.
I'll have runs that are like, oh, that was a great early game. I'm plus 15. I'm extremely far behind my splits, but that was still a pretty good early game. It's just hard to keep up with a 15-34. And so now that we killed Nito, we offered all the Lord Souls to the Lord Vessel, and we're in the final section of the run. So if you were running any percent, or if you're running any percent force quit, or you do a wrong warp, this whole part, or it's Bed of Chaos and Sif and Four Kings and Seath and Nito, you just don't do those. You do like most of this part, and you do this part. Like that is an any percent or a force crit run, but a no wrong warp run, you have to do all this extra stuff, so it takes a lot longer. But yeah, so now we've actually legitimately entered the Kiln of the First Flame without using wrong warp cheats, of course. And we're heading to the final boss, and we're going to do an RTSR setup here, which the 16-bit we got is literally just for this, because we want to get into Red Tearstone Ring range, but at the highest amount of HP we can, because the boss upcoming, there's a chance we might have to block some of his attacks. And having a little extra HP is nice because we will take pretty hefty chunk of chip damage from it. But ideally, that won't happen because there's a newer strat that we're going to use where we're going to do one-handed riposts, because we can actually one-hand the Black Knight Halberd now. And it saves like 2.5 seconds, as I was saying earlier. So the Gwyn fight's just a little different. But it looks cool when it goes well.
Yeah. Also, that R1 that you can do when he's standing up after the first riposte, actually, if he does the fast swing, because of the shifting hitbox of the BKH, you actually duck under the swing and then are able to parry the follow-up.
Yeah, so what I'm going to do is a parry, and I have the Hornet Ring equipped, by the way, which I picked up from Seth. You can see that from this icon right here. The Hornet Ring is going to give me extra damage on critical hits, so a riposte after a parry. I'm going to do a parry into one-handed riposte. As he is standing up from the riposte, I'm going to do another R1, and then I'll have enough time to parry the next attack he does after I come out of that R1, and then he's dead. Normally, you would have to do parry, two-hand your weapon, then riposte, and then do that again. But two-handing your halberd loses a little bit of time. So we're basically, we did all these different level ups to literally just skip having to two-hand the halberd like twice. Which adds up, it's a time save. And it looks cool, looks really cool. I think I get a perfect one here. parry, instantly riposte, because you can riposte really quick with one hand. And then as he's standing up, R1, and then boom.
Yeah, nice.
And here's the last little strat you have to execute. This is the last thing you got to do before you finish a run. If you're killing Gwyn with a riposte, he actually dies like instantly after you get out of the animation. And what you can do to save even more time is you can quit out like literally as he dies. And so right now, this boss arena is considered unstable ground. So if I quit out, I'll actually spawn outside at the fog wall where I entered, because that's where my last stable position is. So I'm going to kill the boss, and before the arena gets updated to stable ground, so the boss dies before the arena gets updated to stable ground. So I'm going to quit out as soon as he dies before it gets updated, and it's going to spawn me back outside the fog wall. And when I reload, it will instantly trigger the final cutscene. So let's rewind it and just watch the whole thing full here. Don't want to spoil my celebration. Okay, here we go. All right. This is where you would post your Franker Z's in chat.
Yeah.
Everybody?
Just littered with Franker Z's all throughout the kiln.
Yeah, it's like Gwyn, things can go wrong, so you're a little stressed. But this quit out is so easy, and I've done it a million times and never get stressed by it. But you could definitely mess it up, and you feel really bad. But yeah, that's it. And then so the time is going to end on after you skip the final cutscene on the credits, and there it is.
Nice. That
is the current world record, 37:43, and hopefully we'll be able to lower it soon. I'm working on it. I haven't been able to do a lot of runs recently. Been busy with a lot of.
I've also been working on it recently.
I'm just trying to get QQ to help push to lower it, because
there's a bunch of other runners running it as well, trying to get better PBs.
It's currently the most active category in the game. I think it's the best category. I've been running this category. This is the first category I ever ran for Dark Souls, so it has like a special place for me. This is the first one I ever got a record for. I've put thousands of hours into this category alone, so it's really important to me, and to see people still running it, still enjoying it, and new strats coming out for it's really cool. Even though it's like basically been mostly the same route for like several years now, but we're still finding optimizations for it. And I think right now the goal is to at least get sub 3730. Like you saw that run, there was still a lot of mistakes in it. And this gadget run, the 3732 that I'm running against, was pretty good, although it was fake with the cheated weapon. But there's still some ways to improve it, and the Nito AFK got added since then. So I don't know. Hopefully by the end of the year we'll have a pretty good no wrong warp record. Right now I'm okay with the 3743 though. It felt good to get it back. And
yeah,
I guess that's it. You want to have anything else to add, or do we have any questions from chat? Maybe
I did have a question here at the end, asking how big is that window for the quit out at the end?
Oh, at Gwyn? It's not incredibly precise. There is a visual cue when you're learning it, like of Gwyn's foot like hitting the ground.
I'd say it's precise, but it's not super hard precise, because you can there's a lot of different ways you can memorize how to cue it up. I use like an audio cue.
Yeah, I do as well.
I use the anticipation of an audio cue
exactly.
to know when to do it.
I look at my timer while I'm actually quitting out.
Yeah.
I just know it so well.
It's really not that hard, but you don't have a lot of leeway on frames. But I have maybe messed that up one time in the past like 5 years. Like that's how easy it is to do.
Yeah, that was going to be my next question is, has that ever killed a run for you at the very end?
Not for me, but I've seen it happen.
I don't think I've ever lost a run to it, but I've seen other runners lose runs to it.
Absolutely. I've seen it happen. I mean, I've died to Gwyn. I've lost records to Gwyn.
Yeah.
But never that one.
Against my any percent record.
Yeah.
You died to Gwyn at the very end.
I probably have the most records lost to Gwyn out of like all the active runners right now. Like but never to that quit out. Like it's a weird, like, precise thing that ends up not being precise because you can anticipate it. And if you practice enough, you like have a really good feel for the timing.
Well, thank you both for coming on tonight and doing an excellent job at just like deep diving into the run and breaking it down for us on how you do a lot of these skips and stuff and tricks that, we don't normally get to see in just like a run that's being showcased live. Great to see that and understand it.
There's a lot of strats in Dark Souls that are not marathon safe. So you don't see them in marathons, and you don't see people necessarily doing in-game time strats because people are doing RTA strats for marathons. So it is different to see like a PB of Dark Souls versus like a marathon run. And it's interesting to cover that. Yeah,
you don't even think about too that during marathons that there's so many strats in any speed run that you might not showcase during that setting. So it's awesome to have the opportunity to showcase it here.
That's why I like this show. It's a cool show.
Like doing slub quit out during a during a marathon, that would be unheard of in the Crystal Caverns before Seath.
People have tried it, but they have died to it every time.
Yeah, it's not really recommended.
Yeah, it's not a good idea.
I want to give you both real quick before we wrap up for the day a chance to shout out anything you'd like and let people know where they can find you.
Do you want to start, QQ? Go ahead.
Yeah, sure. I'm QQ. My name is, QUEUE You can find me on Twitch at, that name that I just spelled out. I don't stream a ton, but I'm trying to get more into it. I mainly just hang around with the other Dark Souls runners like Regal, who's been streaming a lot, but been kind of busy recently. But how about you? You shut yourself out now.
So you can find me all over the internet at you can find me on Twitter and YouTube as Regal Slayer, which I don't love that name, but 'cause I don't like the Slayer at the end. But on Twitch, I'm actually twitch.tv/Regal, REGOLE. I do almost exclusively Dark Souls 1 Prepare to Die edition. But sometimes I do other runs, different games, rarely, but it happens. I've been swamped with life right now with like a bunch of stuff. So I haven't been able to stream much the past couple weeks, but I usually stream about 3 times a week on my Twitch channel. That's where I'm most active. That's probably the best place to find me.
Awesome. Well, I've linked both of you in chat. So chat, if you want to just click those links, give both of them a follow. They definitely deserve it. Super, super knowledgeable on Dark Souls. Go ahead.
Sorry if I might interrupt you. Shout outs to Speed Souls. If any of you guys are interested in learning how to speedrun Dark Souls 1 or any of the FromSoft games for that instance, except for Sekiro, we don't really oversee Sekiro, but if you're interested in running like Dark Souls, Bloodborne, Elden Ring, Demon Souls, anything like that, come check us out. Come check out the Discord, the wiki, anything. We love to help new runners get started and just get on their way.
Yeah, and, shout out to Speed Souls.
Yeah, honestly.
Yes, so. Love communities like that are like, so excited for new runners too, because everyone's got to start somewhere. So glad to hear that as well. Yep. Well, chat, that's it tonight for GDQ Hotfix. Make sure to tune in tomorrow for an extended episode of Legally Cute at 7 p.m. Eastern. Challenger Approaching will return in 2 weeks at its normal time. And make sure to stay tuned because at the end of the show, we are going to raid another channel and stick around for that raid. See you next time.